Okay, here we go. Focus. Speed. I am speed. One winner. 42 losers. I eat losers for breakfast.
3 movie franchises. Films that spread across about 2 to 4 decades, starting with Toy Story, Cars, and Kung Fu Panda. These 3 are staples of a lot of people's childhood, including my own, especially kids growing up in the early 2000s. And these movies actually have a lot in common, a lot more than would seem from surface level. Today we're going to be talking about exactly what those similarities are.
Why?
Monkey.
Starting with their first film. The first film of each franchise starts off the franchise on a very strong note. These are very good first franchise movies. They set up characters you love. A lot of them include humor and positive family values. These first movies set up characters that are world-renowned. Lightning McQueen, Poe, Woody, and Buzz. And the first movie does a really good job in all of these franchises of setting up future potential for movies. And obviously, they're good movies in and of themselves, but all the first movies are basically the start of a franchise. They're basically saying, hey, this is a good storyline. You're going to want to see these characters in more movies. And that kind of sets the precedent for either multiple movies, at least 3 or 4, or perhaps shows or books based off of these characters.
Thank you.
Ah! It says how you defeat Zurg! Look!
Hey! Excuse me,
Get
sir.
this out of here, Geekasaur! Look out! Stop!
As far as Toy Story goes, I would say first movie started off strong. Started off really strong. That movie came out in 1995, and the animation is awful. But you can look past it for the story. And for the time that it came out, that animation was groundbreaking. And it set up probably the future for 3D animation. However, story-wise, I would say it's a slightly weaker than the second one. The second Toy Story is undisputably one of the better second movies in any franchise. I mean, Empire Strikes Back, obviously, but regarded as one of the best second movies. It had everything you needed to continue character growth between Woody and Buzz. It had everything, new characters that you love, Jessie, all those people, and it had an antagonist that you don't like, even though, in my opinion, wasn't really the worst. I mean, he kind of just like slipped a toy into his box at a garage sale, and then now he's this evil guy. Man's just trying to make a living in this economy. Free Big Al. The aliens come in Toy Story 2. Recognizably some of the most Toy Story characters that they've ever had. And then going into the third movie, there is still some work to do. There's still Andy to develop. We've had enough of Andy. We've had 2 movies of Andy.
What are they, vegetables or fruit? And what does that make, ketchup?
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Hey, funny guy! I got a joke for you! What smells rotten and puts people to sleep?
Noxious gas?
No! Your act!
This is Andy's toys, and it's kind of about Andy's toys. It's not really about Andy. But Andy is the owner, and that's part of the story of them, is him growing up alongside of them. A lot of people have a problem with the second one. I don't, personally. I think the second one takes the first movie. It says, you know what? This is a franchise about racing. No, it's also a movie about espionage, grand espionage, international espionage. And it's a story about oil, about people lying to the public, and honestly, probably called a lot of what's happening in today's political world. Anyways. The third movie, not the worst. And I think a lot of people agree that they wrap up the sentimental storylines of the characters. They wrap up basically the franchise as a whole in all three of the cases, in Cars, Kung Fu Panda, and Toy Story. In the case of Toy Story 3, it's really important to pass the torch to another kid, because we're at the point where this movie came out in 95, okay? In the other cases, those movies came out, Cars came out in 2006, and Kung Fu Panda came out in 2008. So 95, that is about a 20-year difference between when some of the more recent Toy Story movies came out. At that point, the kids that grew up watching Toy Story 1 and Toy Story 2 are a little bit older. They're about the age that Andy is in Toy Story 3. I would say Toy Story 3 has a weak point in repeating a little bit of the storyline of Toy Story 2, of the rejected toy turning bad guy type storyline. And the ending of 3 is scarring. I remember sitting in the theater and thinking that they were all going to burn in that incinerator. I for sure thought it. I was like, this is how it ends. This is sad, but I guess cool for them. But obviously that didn't happen, and we get to see the toys passed on to a new owner, which... in the case of Toy Story 3, I would say the audiences feel fine with that. We feel it's time for the toys to find a new owner, and that's okay, because that's the cycle of life. That's Toy Story 3's strength. There's Kung Fu Panda 3, which also is a pretty decent movie and continues the franchise into a place where it could potentially land and end in a satisfying way to audiences, where they don't feel cheated out of storylines, they don't feel cheated out of character endings, wrapping up storylines, and it's a good place to end because you don't feel like you're dragging on a character that is over 20 years, which I understand is in all three franchises. These franchises don't want to do that. They don't want to carry on a character too long and beat a dead horse. Kung Fu Panda and Toy Story are the only franchises that carry their franchise into a fourth movie. And these fourth movies kind of came as a surprise to everybody when they were released, because it was generally thought after watching the third movie of both of these franchises that these franchises were done. Especially myself as a viewer was very confused at a lot of the storylines presented in 4. In Toy Story 4 and in Kung Fu Panda 4. In the case of Kung Fu Panda 4, which just recently released, you can feel that it's a cash grab. You can feel that they are using the characters that you grew up loving to profit off of in the box office. It comes off disingenuous. They basically throw away the storyline of the third movie in both cases, in Toy Story 3 and in Kung Fu Panda 3. It kind of leaves you feeling like, hey, like, what are we doing here? In the case of Cars 3, I believe that Cars 3 came too soon. In the case of Lightning McQueen, we don't even see him win a Piston Cup, which is kind of highway robbery if you think about it. In the beginning of the third movie, there's a montage that shows him winning Piston Cups, but we never truly see him actually win a race. That's one of the downsides, I would say, of the franchise as a whole, is that they fumbled that third movie. The third movie, we're supposed to believe Lightning McQueen is already old and nearing the age of retirement. And we honestly haven't even seen Lightning McQueen race that much. We've seen him race in 2, but that movie was primarily about Mater and his spy journey, and about Big Oil and the conspiracy to inflate the price of Big Oil. But we never got a movie with Lightning McQueen racing in a Piston Cup. With that, he won. The first one, understandably, he doesn't win. And that's the point of that movie, is that he's not supposed to win. He's supposed to learn the lesson of there's more than just empty cups, like Doc had told him. And we understand that McQueen has grown as a person, but we also, as fans, want to see him win races. We start 3 with knowing apparently that he's won 6, which honestly, insane run. People talk about LeBron and Michael Jordan, and we're not even talking about freaking Lightning McQueen winning 6, all right? But I'm just supposed to believe that like happened behind closed doors? Like, no. I need a movie that shows, and there's meat there. There is meat there for a third Cars movie that has Lightning McQueen racing for a Piston Cup that doesn't require him to be getting old. It could be the middle of his career, right after 2, and him in that process of winning those 6 Piston Cups. I think there's story to be had there, but no, they jumped straight into the third movie with him being old and basically telling us give up on Lightning McQueen, give up on his career. He also needs to give up on his career. And I'm fine with the third movie, him passing the torch to whatever her name is, the yellow car that's annoying as heck.
The wheels and forward and rest and forward and rest. Join me, rest and rest.
But yeah, there's totally room for a fourth movie where he passes the torch. And that would have been fine. I would have been fine with a fourth Cars movie if the third established that Lightning McQueen was perhaps towards the end of the movie declining. That way I'm not jumping into the third movie being like, all right, Lightning McQueen's declining. I've only seen him race in one movie, and it wasn't even a Piston Cup. It was a Grand Prix. Cars ended too soon. They killed Lightning McQueen. They killed him. And honestly, I'm not too happy with that.